I got pulled over, and I was in Albany at the time. I lived in Albany for 11 years, as I stated earlier. And I was riding through a pretty drug-ridden neighborhood, and but my kids' school was adjacent to this neighborhood. They both went to charter schools right by there, and I was picked them up from school. My kids were young at the time. My son was probably about 6, and my daughter was probably 11, or maybe 11, or maybe my son was 7 and my daughter was 12. And so they're in the back seat, and they're sitting there, and I was doing the speed limit, and the officer pulls me over, and he pulled me over and said, do you know I pulled you over? I said, no, officer, what's going on? I had a suit and tie on, by the way, too. And I said, no, why'd you pull me over? And he said, oh, because you ran the yellow light. And I said, oh, I ran the yellow light. I didn't understand that that was against the law, officer. And now he's saying, could you roll down the back windows? And I had some tint on the windows. Now he's shining the light in my kids' faces, and they're both scared. And they're looking at me, and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at them, and I'm looking at him. And he says, well, where are you going? Officer, I happen to be the CEO of the school down the street. Oh, okay. Let me just run your name, and I'm going to let you go. And my whole point, I wasn't born with privilege, but I've earned privileges, which we'll talk about later, because of some of my education or some of my status. But because of my privileges, he let me go, and he said, oh, have a nice day. Now, I could have called the chief of police because I had him on my phone. I had the mayor on my phone, had all these other people on my phone that I could have called, and I didn't. It is what it is. But he pulled me over because of what he assumed, that I was in a drug-ridden neighborhood with an exceptionally nice car, and he thought it was an excuse to pull me over because it was a yellow light, black. And I got many experiences, many stories like this. I could go on and on and on.